I did a painting of the cabin from Nancy Drew, Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. The picture is set in fall, so it's a fall painting. In this video, I'll show how I made the painting.
For reference, here's the original scene from the game. It's very brown and kind of dull. I do think it looks better as a fall scene. I started by painting in the sky with blue, and I did very light blue here. I left white patches in the sky because those are clouds, right? The canvas is white, so if I leave empty white spaces, it looks like clouds in the sky. After painting in the blue, I had to blend it with the brush, and I'm not very good at this. The idea is that you're very lightly running your brush across the canvas just to remove any brush strokes, but I'm a little too heavy-handed, and so I ended up just pulling blue stuff into those empty white spots where the clouds are supposed to be. Like, I tried to be really light, couldn't make it happen. I did try to put some white spots back in the sky and then blend those out to make new clouds, but you see that didn't really work. It looks like I did nothing, so it was not a very good blend day for me. Oh, and at the bottom of the canvas, I just did straight horizontal lines for the blue water. The next step is to add the background bushes and trees. I did a color which was light gray. It's black, it's brown, and it's white. And the reason why I added so much white and made it light is because these are background trees and they're very far away. When something's far away in the background of a painting, it needs to be lighter than everything that's close to the front of the painting. I think that was a mistake. I probably should have made these trees a lot darker. I think I did it too light. Another mistake I think I did was that I did all of the trees and bushes at once. I should have just done the background ones, you know, the ones that are touching the sky, rather than the ones that are in the white part of the painting right now. I did have to go back later and add more bushes to the scene to cover up the empty spots in between the foreground bushes and the background bushes. Because if I hadn't done that, I would have had to have painted land in between the foreground and the background, and it's just easier to add bushes than it is to add land behind bushes. After that, I used the script liner brush, which is a small brush that looks like a calligraphy pen, and it does require to use very little paint. You use it to do a bunch of twigs, so I just did a bunch of twigs and branches, connecting those bushes that were floating in the sky, because they're not bushes floating in the sky, those are just leaves on top of a tree. And I'm okay with the script liner brush. I'll complain about it later, but I think this round of using the script liner brush ended up pretty well. It's hard to see on my palette, but I made 3 different piles of autumn colors. So one that's reddish orange, one that's supposed to be yellow orange, but really it kind of looked the same, and then one that was supposed to be reddish yellow, but it kind of looked the same as the orange. If I have to do this painting again, I will try to make the colors more different. I made 3 different piles of paint because I had 3 different brushes to paint the bushes in. So with bushes, it's tough. It's really, really tough. It's the same problem I had with blending the sky. You're supposed to do it very, very lightly. You're not even supposed to be like pushing your brush against the canvas. It's just supposed to be a brief touch and then you pull away. And I just tend to push too hard against the canvas and it smears the paint. Part of the problem I have with making bushes is simply knowing where to press. I'm not supposed to press everywhere because then you wouldn't be able to see the dark background. You want some of the dark background showing. Otherwise, well, the branches don't really get visible, like they all blend together. So I get that. but I'm still not sure about the whole tilting the brush at the correct angle and turning it sideways. I did see somebody describe it as, okay, pretend you're looking at a clock. You're going to press at the 12 o'clock, then at the 2 o'clock and the 3 o'clock, and then 11 and 9. And that is extremely methodical, but it does kind of get the idea of tilting your brush in the correct direction, because you can't just press 3 times. You do have to tilt your brush slightly when you're pressing 3 times. And you have to press it in different spaces, and I'm just struggling with figuring out, how do you do that? How do you know the exact right place to put it every time? And I just think a lot of these great painters who have done like hundreds and hundreds of paintings, they just have it memorized. It's instinct to them. So they don't even have to think about it when it's like, oh, I'm doing a bush painting with 5 different touches to the canvas. Okay, touch, 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 touch. I'm done. But me, I have to think about that. Here I did try to switch back and forth between my various brushes, because I don't want the entire thing being red, right? We want a patch of red, a patch of orange, a patch of the yellowish orange. It makes it nice when the color is all varied, and that is one way to make it seem that there are multiple bushes in the forest. It's because, hey, they're different colors, they must be different bushes. Since I had 3 different brushes, that led me to the problem that my brushes were not all the same. One of them was a bush brush, which means it's got like the curved edge, so it's purposely designed for making bushes. With the other 2, you kind of have to press along the edge, but you don't want like the full side, because bushes are round, so you just want to use the one part of the edge to make it rounded. I know I'm doing a terrible job of describing it, I'm sorry. But you know, you don't want it to be flat, and that's sort of what the bottom right part of the bush area ended up being. Was, you know, I'm just making flat lines with it because I'm going along the flat edge of the brush, and that was a mistake on my part. I'm sorry about that. Specifically, the clump of trees on the left, so second from the left, like, I really kind of messed up there and just made, looks like blurry lines with the bushes. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but it definitely doesn't look like distinct bushes. It looks like I lost my dark there, and it all seems to be just one entire bush, which is one color, and I'm told that's not what you want to do. But of course, you know, painting is always up to you as the artist. You can have as many bushes as you want. You can do whatever you want in your painting. If you want thick bushes, fine. I am trying to copy a picture from a video game, so I really shouldn't go too off on my own and make up stuff. Next, I added in the ground, and this kind of shows off what I was talking about tapping the brush in a straight line. That's what I do at the very top to get the ground in. And that's what you want to do for ground, but not for bushes. My mistake was doing that for the bushes and not the ground. The top of the ground is the part that really matters. After that, doesn't really matter, and you can just blur it like that, because it's just dirt, and I'm going to cover it up anyway. I did decide to bring up the water closer, because I figured it was easier to have more water than it was to have more land. Next was putting in the roof, and I did that with the dark brown, and I wasn't too tough. There are, like, streaks inside the brown, but that's okay, because this is an old house, old weathered wood. Basically, you're just making a big trapezoid. That's what it's called, right? A trapezoid? Yeah, a trapezoid. So I used a lighter shade of brown for the house, and that was just easy. You just grab and pull all the way down. Just pull all the way down to the ground. And then I had to smooth out the edges, because the edge of the roof didn't quite cover the top of the house. Also, the bottom of the house is not quite level, but I didn't worry about that until later. After that, I made the doors and window after figuring out where they go, because they're in very specific spots in the game. The door is sort of in the middle, so I used my palette knife to scratch off the paint, just get rid of all the paint in the area where the door and the windows go. Then I came in with the brown and just painted in the area where the door is, and the paint goes on pretty smoothly and covers it up well because I scratched off all the paint that was there. I'm basically painting on empty canvas at that point. Next was doing the pillars, and I tried doing the pillars in the gray, but it didn't really come out that well. It just looked like I smeared the brown paint. So then I did the same trick with the knife, where I just scratched off the paint, got rid of all the paint on the canvas, making little empty spaces where the pillars go. Because there are exactly 6 pillars on the house, either side of the door, either side of the windows, and then on the far edges as well. After removing the paint there, I added paint back with the gray, and now you can actually see the gray. It came out pretty well, so I added the gray with the brush, and that's fine. Some places it looked really good, some places it did not, so I had to add more paint, and I tried smoothing it out with the knife. If there are any spots where it didn't look good, I would just scrape off the paint with the knife and try again. And at the end, I found a much easier way of doing those pillars, which is the knife. You just press the knife against the canvas. You get a roll of gray on the edge of your knife, and then you just tap it along the canvas, up and down, and that makes for pretty straight lines and makes for nice pillars. Oh, you do have to add stuff at the bottom of the pillars, right? Because in the actual game, the pillars have supports at the bottom. After that, I added more dark underneath the house. I added grass to the land area. It was supposed to be gold colored, but it kind of came out yellowish green. I think it's kind of an ugly shade of a grass myself. That's okay, there's not too much grass, so I put the grass everywhere in the land except for the path. I took the fan brush and took some more brown and just went back and forth with the fan brush in the area to make that pathway. Then I added the shoreline, and I did that with 2 different ways. On the right-hand side, I just used the knife to add brown at the bottom of my landmass. On the left-hand side, I tried just using the paintbrush, and I think it did work better with the knife that day. And I smoothed it all out using the fan brush, because otherwise it was way too obvious that I did 2 different painting techniques on the shoreline. After that, I went over the shoreline with the grass, because the grass grows over the shoreline. It doesn't like magically stop at the shoreline. Then I added whatever it's called, water stuff, water lines, that's it. I did not do well with water lines. Sometimes I'm really great with water lines, but not this day. What you're supposed to do is get a thin roll of white paint at the end of your knife, and then you just zigzag or saw motions along the shoreline. So that way there's just this little line of white going across the shoreline. And it does have to be zigzagged, or because water's level, right? So the lines need to be horizontal lines. Otherwise it looks weird. And then I added some water lines in the water. I tried to do one. The upper one on the right is shaped like a letter C. That's one of those ripples where something splashed and it made a little ripple like that. I think it looks cool. Next, I had to add the dock. So I did basically the same thing I did with the roof of the house, which is, okay, I take the dark brown and then I make a trapezoid. And I did have to extend it onto the land a little bit because the dock does not start right at the shoreline. It goes onto the land a little bit. And then I tried to smooth it all out and make lines across it with the lighter browns. So the idea was that I'd take the lighter brown and then I'd very gently run it from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. And that would automatically leave streaks, making it look like boards of wood. I guess another way is to just take the darker brown and add the knife using the zigzag sawing motions that you do for the water lines, and use that to create a straight line from left to right. That would make it look like boards, because each line would create a different board, a different plank. My knife was not really cooperating with me very well, unfortunately. I mean, it does look like there are different planks in the wood, and that's fine, but the far right-hand side of the dock and the far left-hand side of the dock just did not want to cooperate, and so I had to work extra hard to get those to smooth out well. Then I added the posts to the dock, because the wood is not just floating in the middle of nowhere. I decided to make it gray. That's not the color it is in the game, but I had a lot of extra gray and I didn't want to mix extra shades of brown because I kind of ran out of the light brown. That was a mistake on my part. It's fairly easy to add the gray things using the small end of the knife. Just remember that the posts get bigger the closer they get to you. So the ones at the top are smaller and the ones at the bottom are larger. And it's not a difficult motion. It's like you press the small edge of the knife to the canvas and then you just go down. Just simple. They're rectangular. I put in water lines at the bottom of them, and then I added some more bushes to fill in the white spots, because I feel like there are too many white spots in my bushes. That didn't look very good. Then I added some lighter brown to the path just to make the path look a little bit better and more shaded. The next major thing I did was add trees to the painting. The really big trees, which go all the way up, cover up most of the painting, go out through the roof of the painting. Not the roof of the house. In the actual game, there is a tree in between the leftmost column and the second from left column. You can see a tree there from certain spots in the game, and I probably should have drawn that big dead tree there, but I didn't. I didn't want to mess up the house. I'm sorry, so we'll just pretend that somebody came by and cut that big dead tree down. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Instead, I drew the trees on two on the left, one on the right. They're growing out of the bushes, and they're pretty big. They do have to be bigger at the bottom than they are at the top. I can't tell from this angle if I drew them straight up and down. I think trees look nice when they look straight up and down, but there's a lot of painters who say, well, that's not realistic. That's a telephone pole, not a tree. I thought the trees were fine. I didn't add too many branches to the trees when I was adding the... Okay, so it's the filbert brush, the larger brush. That's the one you do to add the tree trunks. And then you go back in with the script liner brush and you add those little branches on the trees. And that's where I feel like I didn't do as well as I did with the background trees. The idea is that the harder you push your brush against the canvas, the bigger the line is going to be. It's going to be thicker, and it's going to be darker. The color is what got me, because I want the color to match, right? Because these are branches that are sticking off of the trees, so they need to match the tree in color, and it just doesn't seem like that always happens. Like that one branch, it's like, well, you can tell it was painted separately. And it's weird because I am painting it with the exact same color, but it's a lot lighter. And you do want to just, let tree branches go every which way. You can have a branch curl up against the tree trunk. That's fine. I have the two trees next to each other, so really I should have drawn more limbs that were overlapping each other. And then I also tried drawing a small dead tree in the foreground, and ooh, that did not turn out super well. It's just not distinct enough. I mean, it's not like it's an ugly dead tree or anything. But dead trees are rarely beautiful. They're usually dead. But yeah, I feel like that did not come out as distinctly as I wanted it to. Next is adding shading on the trees. So the right-hand side is the side that the light is coming from in this painting. So you just make a lighter shade of the brown and you go up and down the right. You do want to make it look natural. You do want to blend it into the tree. You don't want to look like it's a striped tree where it's like the right-hand side is got a big light stripe on it. No. You do want it to make it look like it's a part of the actual tree. I think I did it better on the second from left tree. I feel like I blended that tree the best. After that, I anchored the trees into the painting by adding more bushes, just adding bushes at the bottom of the trees. That way the trees aren't just floating in the middle of nowhere. They're hiding behind bushes. And I tried adding more yellow bushes that were distinctly yellow, and I feel like that worked. Next was adding the reflections of the trees in the water, and that's basically painting the trees upside down in the water, roughly where the reflections would be. Then you take a dry brush and you just go left and right very gently. Again, I was having trouble with blending gently during this painting, but you go left and right just to create little ripples in the water so it's shimmering and it looks like a good reflection. My problem is that I had water lines in the water already. You need to add the water lines after the reflections, because I tried adding that water line back and it made a mess on the whole left-hand side, and it got smashed between those two reflections, and so I had to add blue back, and yeah, I had to blend out that blue, and it didn't look the best, so I ended up covering for that by adding a rock. I add a rock to the reflection, which is really simple, just a black smear and then a gray smear on top of that. That makes it look like a rock. It's really easy. And you have to add water lines underneath the rocks too, because otherwise it looks like the rock is floating. I added my name to the painting, and then I realized, wait, the bottom part of the dock needs to be blue. Like, the water should be darker because there is a shadow around the dock, a shadow. So I just went with my brush and tried to lightly blend darker shadow underneath that dock. I ended the painting there. I could have tried making birds in the sky. It would have been really cool if I could have added in the birds from the video game, but I didn't have any reference pictures of the birds, and I had been painting for about 2 hours at that point, so I decided, no, 2 hours of painting is enough. It is kind of exhausting to be so hyper-focused on just one thing for so long. So I ended the painting there. I hope you enjoy seeing how I made this painting. Thanks for watching my video. I'm sorry if I talked for way too long.